Hello, this is Coach Aaron Saft and the Running is Life podcast. I hope this finds you well. So much has transpired since the last podcast. What a great week, and want to take a moment and just say thank you to all of you that took a moment to wish me a happy birthday. I really do appreciate that. Just a really nice outpouring of messages coming in through so many different variety of ways. So thank you guys. Very special week, and I will talk about all of that after my interview with my guest, Mike Reardon. In respect to Mike, because we have a great conversation. Mike completed the Cocodona 250 for the second time this year, but he also hiked the Wonderland trail and then also did the Mammoth 200 as a solo athlete. So no crew, no pacers. So we're going to get into all of that and talk all things with Mike. This is the second time on the podcast for Mike. Mike is one of my athletes. I'm fortunate enough to coach this amazing man. He's a wonderful person, so soft-spoken, and very, very endearing, very kind. So I appreciate Mike coming on the podcast and talking with me. At the end of the podcast, we will catch up on everything. I will also discuss perhaps a way that you can use strength training to stave off and limit, or at least acknowledge when you may have a potential for an injury. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that at the end. But just want to get to my conversation with Mike, so here we go. Okay, Mike, here we are again. It's our second episode together.
Yep.
So people, I'll put Mike's old show in the show notes. But Mike, why don't you start us off just as an introduction to those that perhaps haven't listened to that previous episode. Tell us about you and your background.
Um, well, I started running ultras back in 2020 and started along the route of 50Ks and 50 milers, 100Ks, and then 100 milers. But um, I became interested in the 200-mile distance when I learned about Cocodona, and was following that for several years. And my wife just happened to sign me up for it for 1 year as a Father's Day present. And this was when you could actually sign up for Cocodona after registration opened, and you could wait a couple of weeks and do it. So that was an awesome Father's Day gift, probably the best Father's Day gift I've ever gotten. So I did Cocodona in 2024. I mean, 2020, 24, and 25. So 2 years now. And that, I mean, I love that race. It's everything about it has, changed me when I did it. And it's completely different than the hundreds. I feel like, hundreds are they're super hard. You have to run the entire time. Well, run most of the time, right? Because the cutoffs are very tight. 200 milers, you can go to a little more of a relaxed pace. You can, hike. I love to hike, and it was just fit. It seemed like this was right in line with what I love to do. You're out there for several days. I love being in nature as much as possible. Um, so the 200 just spoke to me, I guess. They seem crazy, but I think they're very doable if you love hiking and you're willing to endure a little bit of suffering beyond. So
Do you have
that's big.
do you have a background in hiking? Were you a hiker before you were a runner?
No,
No.
no. I just, in fact, I mean, this is something that came upon us after I started ultra running. A lot of ultra running is hiking. So, and then I realized, I really like it when I'm out there, just, trotting along and going at a good pace, but really enjoying my surroundings. Um, at the same time we started ultra running, we started going to national parks. So we've been to, many national parks since 2020. Um, and that as a family, it's been a great activity for us. So it's just, I think, I'm happiest, I think, when I'm out hiking, um, and just exploring nature and just love it. So,
Right on. What originally spoke to you about Cocodona?
um, it was so diverse. I didn't know much about Arizona. I'd never been to Arizona before Cocodona, and I just thought it was this place that was a desert state and a lot of cactuses and really hot place. But watching the live streams, it was just like, wow, this place is incredible. It's just desert. You're going, through pine trees. You're going over mountains. You're going through the forest. It's amazing. And just a point to point kind of thing, like being able to traverse, that much of the state on foot and seeing so many different things. It just spoke to me. I mean, I think, a lot of people are crazy about Cocodona. I'm one of those people. I'm kind of sad that it's really hard to get into now. Actually, I'm lucky that I did get to sign up for next year because I guess I'm skilled with clicking the mouse super fast. Um, but it's I think I'm kind of sad now that it's so popular that I know that I probably won't get in every year, but it's just I mean, even when I was out on the course this year, I saw Jamil. I was going out through the Bradshaws, and I was like, man, this race really just it did it for me. It changed me, and so I think he hears that a lot, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, as you said, 200 milers have that effect on people.
Yeah.
And Rachel kind of echoed the same sentiments about Tour de France. How it really does change you because of how much time you're alone. Now, you experienced Cocodona this year, and our previous podcast with Mike was about his original experience with Cocodona. So you can kind of go back there and hear about his training and all that good stuff. So if you're interested in that, I'll put that in the show notes. But Mike, going back this year, what did you take into this year that you learned from the first year that went better, and what still went awry?
Um, I just knew that no matter what, you're going to experience lows. You're going to experience many, many lows, but it's crazy. And as you know, with most ultras, you're going to just bounce right out of it and get into a high, most likely. So I knew to expect that. I knew to expect the lows that are going to come. I knew the course already, so I knew that that first 50K was going to be really, really hard. What I didn't expect this year was the terrible weather.
Mm.
Um, it was completely different than when I did it in 2024. I mean, this year it was cold, it was raining, there was tons of mud. There was actually some hail at some points in time. Um, we were going through miles and miles of mud where it's just caked onto your feet, and I mean, I was just broken down. I mean, I remember coming down Mingus Mountain, and it was just miles and miles and miles of thick, cake-like mud, and I was just like, I actually broke down and cried a little bit on that descent because I was like, this is so bad. But I knew that, with the 200, it's so long, that you're just going to get past that. It's get through the bad parts. You can endure. I mean, I think that's something you do have to learn, with these things. And a lot of people, it's hard to learn, but I mean, just get through it. So the race is so long that you can get through those hard parts and get to a high point, and you won't even realize it when you're in that low point. But I mean, eventually you're going to get to a point where you're just loving it, loving life, and so just keep pushing on. I mean, um, I would say that this year was harder than last year, Cocodona wise. The course was harder, it was longer, um, and the weather was worse. But I still got in around the same time, so I think I did better overall. I mean, my time was the same, but it was a harder, longer course. So
And you went pacerless, is that right?
yeah, I've always sort of went pacerless. My first year Cocodona, I had a couple of friends that jumped in and paced me, just on a whim. They, so that was awesome. But I usually do not have pacers. It's just because I'm introverted and don't like asking people to do it. But also I'm totally fine with being by myself out there. I actually kind of enjoy that. But my wife has been crewing me for the past two Cocodonas, and she's been amazing. Um, and I don't know how I got through without her. And she really puts up with a lot out there, and she's got it down to a T now. It's like a science. Um, we actually like got the hotels that she likes to stay at. I book these things like a year in advance. It's like a science for us Cocodona. So I've already got stuff set up for her for next year. And it's like, she knows what to do. We're pretty good at Cocodona now. She's amazing.
And that's fantastic. Um, Talk about that, that alone time. Like you talked about how, it's you learned that it will get better, and that it's in the moment it's really tough. Like for instance, let's go to that time where you broke down and you were crying. Those are really tough moments to pull through.
Yeah.
Like can you go through a little more the process that you went through? Because in that moment it is really hard to bring yourself out of it. Like there's a lot of coaxing, and especially if you don't have anybody around you, a pacer or anything like that. Or talk about if
This on the web.
oops, sorry, Siri just jumped in there. Um, if your wife, if she was a part of that process, what helped you get out of that?
I think sometimes if you're feeling really down, and I think you can normalize crying in 200s. I think it's a normal thing. You get so low, but if you're getting so down that you actually have to let out a little bit of emotion, just do it. You need to yell, scream a little bit, cry a little bit. Just do it because it's going to make you feel a little better, to get out that frustration. If you need to, there are some points where I call my wife if I have cell service. That's great. That's a great thing to do. I talk to her and tell her how I'm feeling, and she coaxes me through it. I mean, telling me that I'm going to get back. Actually, that first year at Cocodona, I told her I was going to quit at the 50, like before I got to 50K, and she coaxed me through. So, yeah, I do call her and do that.
And what
I think
works? Is it tough love or is it sympathy? How does she go about it? Because everybody has a different way of being dealt with, I guess you can say. How does your wife
she
deal with you?
just she brings me back to reality a little bit. She's like, "You're only a couple of miles from the aid station. Just keep moving." Um, so that's what she'll bring me back to reality. And I'm not dying out there. If something was really bad and I couldn't move, then that's a different situation.
Hmm.
But I'm just, all I'm just having a pity party a lot of the times.
Yeah, right.
But I think you just have to think about what did you do to get to that point? What are the things that you had to endure to get to that point? How many people would love to be out doing the things that you're doing? How many people would love to see the things that you're seeing that people aren't going to get to see because they don't get to do these things.
Hmm.
Um, and we're lucky enough to get out there and do that. So I think about that a lot. I work in the medical field. I see a lot of terrible things. And I know there's a lot of people that will never get to do these types of things. And I think about that a lot too. So I'm just grateful. I try to, turn it around. Like, you're doing these awesome things. Be grateful. Keep moving forward. It's gonna get better. It's gonna get better. So,
Do you remember the conversation when you were like barely at 50K and wanting to drop? Do you remember that conversation?
oh yeah, I told her, I was like, I don't think I can do this. Because I was sitting down. It was hot that year. Um, I could find like a little bit of shade, and I was like, I just don't think I can do this. It's I'm way over my head. This is way bigger than what I thought I was going to be. I don't because a lot of times you sign up for something and it's awesome when you're signing up, but when you actually have to do it, it's very hard. um, so that's exactly what I was feeling. I had all the doubts in my head. I was like, what was I thinking? I'm not one of these people that can do these things. It's just not,
You
and
almost
all
had
the,
the imposter syndrome.
yeah, exactly. I have that a lot. I didn't train. I'm not training good enough for this. I'm not putting in enough effort, but I actually did. I did do the work. But you're just trying to come up with reasons that you shouldn't be out there. And that's just the negative self-talk. That's terrible. That's in everybody's head. And she was able to talk me down and say, you're only a couple miles from the aid station. Just keep moving and see how you feel when you get to the aid station. And man, it does make a difference. So, I mean, and also when you're at the aid station, I mean, the one thing I've learned from the ultras that I've done, never just, I mean, if you're feeling okay and you don't have any injuries or anything like that, don't decide to drop out until you've at least maybe taken a nap and eaten some food. And then if you still feel like it, then that's a different story. But those things will really turn your race around. So
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any of those same thoughts this year? Going through the mud and all that stuff. I know that's like exhausting, right? So you've
yeah,
got this whole other variable. First year was the heat, but this year was the mud, and that wears on you. It wears on your patience, and it wears on your ability to think and
yeah.
process clearly. So, when you were, like you said, going down the mountain and it's just caked on you, like what went through your head and how did you move forward through that?
Just keep moving. I knew the course, so I knew that after Mingus Mountain, we were going to get into the Verde Valley. I love the Verde Valley. Most people might think it's a little bit boring, but that is one of my favorite parts of the course. So that was like a reward for me. Um, and I just need to keep moving. Eventually, you're going to get to the aid station. You're going to eat some food. You're going to get cleaned up. You can change your shoes, change your socks, get out of all this mud, and then move on to a part of the course that you're really, really looking forward to. So that's a lot of what I was thinking there.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of us have experienced this, and I talked about it when I did tour. Some of the very same things that Mike was going through, and and really trying to figure out a way to keep moving forward because it was it was really challenging to find that. And Mike, you've got two kids, right?
Two kids, yeah.
Yeah, two
One's
kids.
15 and one's, yeah.
And what do they think about this? These 200 milers.
They probably just think I'm crazy. Yeah. Um, yeah, I have a daughter and a son. And they run 5Ks and actually my son has run a 50K before, but but they think I'm crazy.
Now, and
Like I'm a
then
nut job.
what's the furthest they've got to be a part of one of your races? What's the furthest distance you've done where they've been present?
Oh, they've done some 100 milers with me. They did
Okay.
Hellbender
Okay.
when I was
Yeah.
doing that one, so that was
Right.
the most recent 100 miler that they were a part of.
Right on. And what was that like for them? Did you get to talk to them afterwards? Like how did that like transpire in their brains? How did they feel and how did it affect you during that race?
Um, I think that it's just a normal part of their lives now because they've known it for so long. So it's not like it's like where other folks they don't it's not a part of their normal life to go out and run 20 or 30 miles on the weekend like it is
Right.
for us. But I think they're just used to it. They think I'm insane. um and but I do use that, like when I do think about stopping or quitting or something, I do kind of think about that. Hey, teach them a lesson. Life is hard. Bad things are going to happen. Try to press on as best you can. So I mean, you may not be successful all the time, but at least give it your best shot. So, and I think that I use that a lot for them for sure.
You mentioned earlier that you call your wife. Have you ever called the kids?
Well, they're, around when she's there. They do send me messages every so often on the course. You're at mile 50, keep going, that's always an encouraging thing for me. So I like that.
You're able to keep your emotions in check.
For the most part, yeah, it gets, I mean, 200 milers, I mean, your emotions are going around crazy. But yeah, so I do try to use that. And like we've talked before, my daughter did make me a little card one time and telling me that she believes in me and thinks I'll never give up. And so I laminated that card and I keep it with me on all my races. So I even had it during Mammoth, so it's always there with me.
Right on. Oh, that's great. Um, So you're going for a third go at this one, and like I oftentimes wonder, you've mentioned that like, Cocodona is has some pretty special places and holds a special place in your heart, but like three times, like yeah, I would like to know like what presses somebody to be like, yeah, I want to do this again. After doing it twice, what do you hope to gain by doing it a third time?
Um, yeah, that's interesting. I do things. I do tend to repeat races, and it's because I'm searching for that feeling I've gotten from doing those races in the past. And Cocodona, I just love the course. I mean, my wife will tell you that I'm in love with Arizona now. I want to live there, and so that's the reason why I want to keep going back to it. It's a special place. It pushes me to my limit. Um, so I mean, I'm not sure that I'm going to gain a lot more, but I want to experience the same things that I did during that race. And then they come out with, oh, we've got the 1,000 mile buckle that you can get after 4 races. So I'm like, well, okay, if I've done two, I'm gonna do three. I might as well go for the fourth too, if I can get in at some point. So
Fair enough.
yeah.
Okay, right on. You also got to go do a little training weekend there, and you got to see Andy Jones Wilkins.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
talk about that a little bit and any wisdom you gleaned from him, because he
Oh my
lives out that way
goodness.
now. What did you
Yeah.
pick up from Andy? I'd be interested to hear that and share it with those listeners.
What a fantastic experience. So Andy sent out, on the Facebook group, he was sending out information that he was going to be doing a training weekend, about 3 or 4 days on the course, about 20 to 25 miles each day. And they had changed the course from when I did it the first year to this year. So I did want to go out there and see some of the new parts of the course. And that's exactly what he was doing, the new parts of the course. And so that was amazing. And I got to actually, run the course with him every single day because we were about the same pace. I mean, he's much faster than me, but he was taking it easy, I think, and just we were just sort of fast hiking the new sections of the course, talking the whole time and chatting it up, and so that was an invaluable experience for me. He's so knowledgeable, nice, and just a pleasant human being. I just love being around him. And I'm hoping he'll do it again next year so we can touch base again. I don't think he's running it again next year, but I do think he's going to still do the training runs. So,
Cool. Nice. Yeah, very nice. Did he share anything with you, like his thoughts on the course or um, strategy or anything like that? Did you guys talk
well,
any?
it was new for him, which was it was weird because he was asking me questions because I had done it before.
Hmm.
So I was, he
Yeah.
was asking, I was like, why is Andy Jenna Wilkins asking me any questions about anything? But he was asking me a lot of questions about Cocodona the year before and what I did and what my strategy was. He was particularly interested in the sleep strategies
Hmm.
and where I slept and stuff. So I was trying
Sure.
to, be as helpful as I could to him.
Right on.
And I was trying to, get all the information off of him, off of other races he's done. Like you would tell me about Hard Rock and stuff like that. So uh, it was an exchange of information for sure. I mean, I'm sure I gained much more information than he gained from me. So,
Right on. Cool. And you guys got to share some miles during the race too, right?
yeah, we were going around the same pace. We would meet up every so often at aid stations, and he'd be like, "Oh, Mike,
Mm.
But yeah, I remember seeing that Mingus Mountain. I saw him on the final descent, coming into Flagstaff, and so that was a special moment too, and it was hard. I mean,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, but we were back and forth the whole time. It was great seeing him on the course.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, moving forward, let's talk a little bit about Mammoth 200. Most people don't know a lot about this race. How did you find out about it?
Um, just through social medias, and I knew that it was a new race coming out, and I know the names. Tim Tollefson is the director of Mammoth Trail Fest. I haven't done that before, but I've heard about it, and he's super awesome guy and a very established and runner, ultra runner, and has accomplished so many stuff. And then Hillary Yane is the race director. So I mean, I knew that they were coming out with this race. I had always had an interest in going out to the Sierra and just exploring. Um, in a part of our national park trips, we've been to Yosemite, we've been to Kings Canyon and Sequoia and all those places, and so I just knew the place was beautiful. And to think that they were going to be doing a 200-mile race in that area really intrigued me. So I was, hooked when they initially announced it, even though they didn't have permits and they weren't really accepting, applications yet. And it just so happens like we were out, we took a trip to Arizona in May after Cocodona. Like I said, I love Arizona. And we were in Sedona, and I learned that they had opened up, they had all their permits in place, and that was exciting to me. You could submit your name to go onto the wait list, and I said, "Well, what's the harm in at
Mhm.
least putting my name on the wait list? You're not being charged anything, and I could, I might not get in, or I might get in. Who knows?" So I just put my name on the wait list without telling my wife, of course, that because I figured, what's the harm? It's just a wait list. And then I got in pretty quick off of the wait list. And I was like, "Hey, Kelly, I'm just gonna tell you about something. There's a race coming up in September, and I really want to do it. I think I can, pull it off with, taking off time from work and stuff. And So that, one thing led to another."
That's great. Yeah, Mammoth Lakes, California is, it's a pretty magical place.
Stunning,
Um,
stunning.
and so talk about the course as an overall picture for us. Is it point to point? Is it a loop? What does that look like?
It's a loop course, so that's awesome. I prefer courses which are either point to point or loop, so I don't have
Hmm.
to repeat anything.
Yep.
Um, and I've never been to Mammoth Lakes before, so I didn't really know what to expect, but it's in this, there was a huge volcanic eruption about 700,000 years ago, and it created this huge caldera in between the mountains. So it's a big flat area between mountains. It's called like the Long Valley Caldera. Um, and it's just beautiful. So you have a huge flat area surrounded by mountains and lakes, these really tall peaks, and that's basically the course. You're going along the rim of this caldera,
Mm.
and traversing all these different ecosystems, and it's just all sort of like Cocodona. You're seeing so many different things along the course. It's not just one thing. You're not just in the alpine or something like that. You've seen so many different environments along the course. And it's 214 miles. It was 207, and then they kept increasing it up. It's 214. It's about 30,000 feet of elevation gain. So if you consider that, it's not a terrible elevation gain for a 200 miler, because if you
Right.
were going to you split that in half, a 16,000 foot 100 miler is not really that bad.
Right.
So the elevation gain is not terrible. You see the mountains along the rim, but you're not necessarily going over the mountains, but you get to see them the whole entire time. So it's
And what's the range of elevation or altitude that you're at?
well, the altitude is pretty high. So I think you're ranging anywhere from 6,000 feet up to 11,000 feet, 11,500 feet, probably averaging around 8,000 feet or so. So that is a factor. Um, I've been previously to Leadville and raced there. I didn't have any problems in Leadville, so I figured I'd be fine. And it was not a problem for me. So the elevation really didn't factor in for me.
Right on. Right on. Cool. Um, how was getting there?
Um, it's totally easy. I flew out to Reno, and then drove about 3 hours down to Mammoth Lakes.
Okay.
And the drive there is beautiful, beautiful. So one of the best, drives I've done in a while. You just sort of throw on some nice tunes and you sit back and you look at the nice scenery as you drive. So it was kind of an enjoyable experience. I think there is an airport closer to Mammoth Lakes, but I just chose to go straight to the Reno airport. I think it was like a one-stop flight, so
Nice.
pretty easy.
Cool. And you decided to do this one solo. Um,
Well, it was I kind of had to, because my wife's job, she's also in the medical field, and she has to have her schedule set along like a year in advance. Um, so when I sprung this on her in May, it was too late for her to go back and say, well, I need to take off to cruise. So I was like, I knew that if I was going to do this, I was going to have to do it on my own.
all
No crew, no pacer. So that was part of the deal. I knew it was coming.
right.
That's
That's fair. That's fair. Uh, yeah, because sometimes those conversations could be hard. So when when you surprised her by saying, "Well, I just put my name in for this lottery," did you get that death stare, or was
Oh
she?
yeah, I don't think she was too pleased about me going out here and going to some place we had never been before and doing a 200 miler by myself. The most I'd ever done by myself was 100K.
Mhm.
So I haven't even done a 100 miler by myself.
Gotcha.
And I think she was a little worried about how I was going to handle that, because she's seen me at Cocodona. I get pretty bad at Cocodona, like my feet
Yeah.
hurt terribly. I come in all confused sometimes when I'm very sleepy.
Hmm.
And she takes care of everything at those aid stations, and then I don't have to think at all. I just wake up and go. But here I have to do everything for myself. She was a little worried about that. Plus, I told her there's other bears out there, but that was a big deal.
But, 200 milers can be known to be pretty pricey too. How was this one?
I think it was on par with the rest of the American 200 milers.
Somewhere
I
around
can't
like
remember
1,500 or so?
yeah, I mean, it's probably around the 15, 16 or so, $100 for the 200. So yeah,
Okay.
it is pricey. So it is definitely an investment, which also makes you train harder because you know that you've put that investment in,
Huh. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
for sure.
And like one conversation that I always, or one question that I always have for people is that when you spent that money and now post fact, when you look back at that, do you feel that they gave you what you paid?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And I felt that for Cocodona. I feel it for Mammoth. Even though this was an inaugural race, um, I don't. You couldn't if you didn't tell me that, I probably wouldn't know that it was an inaugural race. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I think with Tim and Hillary, they're so professional. They're so in deep in this field,
Hmm.
and then the Mammoth Trail Fest, they've built that up. They have the infrastructure basically. but they just put it into the 200. Now, is there the growing pains? Of course.
Hmm.
I think I didn't expect anything to be perfect. I mean, I think a lot of learners will tell you that, you know, but we would like some more hot food choices at some of the aid stations. So maybe some more infrastructure at the aid stations, like more warm, like more heaters and stuff like that. But I mean, that's just little things.
Yeah, yeah.
Overall, it was really like, man, they were on point and they did a great job. So I think, and I felt fulfilled for sure. Like I got my money's worth for this
Awesome.
race. And then
Awesome.
the the area was so beautiful. I mean, I would pay that money just to go out there and sit there. So, you know what
Nice.
I mean? Just sit around
Yeah,
and watch it. So,
that's cool. I know, Tim had talked about this a while ago that he had envisioned creating a race that would be something similar to UTMB in the regard that you would have this mountain race and that it would incorporate towns into the race itself, and those towns
yeah.
would kind of form, aid stations. Did you find that? I don't know enough about Mammoth 200, but was that, did you see that there, or that didn't take place here?
Uh, I don't I don't think there was a lot of we did pass by towns and there was a few towns that we passed through, but I don't think it was much like that. So I
Okay.
mean, the aid stations were sort of off by themselves, and I think Cocodona is more sort of a going through town type of race, where this one sort of skirts by the towns,
Okay.
and then you're
Okay.
back into the wilderness.
Maybe in the future they'll kind of incorporate that, but
Yeah.
okay. Because I remember him talking about that in a podcast. That's what he kind of envisioned. But yeah, it can be tough to accomplish, especially if the town doesn't really. Because I think in Cocodona, there's that one town that doesn't want anything to do with the race.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so
Well, I think they changed their mind now. I think they accept it now.
okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, they're on board.
Good. 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 That's good. Um, so, going into this solo, obviously you had to rely on drop bags and aid stations.
Oh
So
yeah.
what did that look like?
Well, there was a ton of aid stations. I think they had like 19 or 20 aid stations, and most of those you could have a drop bag at. I think I had 15 drop bags total. Um,
Okay.
there was five sleep stations, so I had five big drop bags. Um, where I put a couple, I like a couple of them were shoe changes. So I had at least three bags that had shoes in them. I did not change my shoes that many times, but I had the option. So every bag had like, I would put together a little bag of snacks and gels and things that I might like. And not that I would use all those, but they would be there if I want them. So they were in every single bag. And then I'd have like lube, in every other bag, and I have like a battery pack in every three bags, and change of socks in every single bag, some wet wipes, um, and I would come in, get my bag, see what I want. Normally, I would just like take the Oreos out because that's what I wanted. And Oreos are like a honey bun or something, um, and uh, and then I knew I was by myself, so I was like, the biggest thing for me in 200s is feet. And that's where my problems lie, and they can really get bad. So I clean my feet really good. I would lube them up with the salty britches and then put my new fresh dry max socks on. And I did that like at least every other aid station. So I was really good about foot care, and my feet turned out great at
Nice.
the end.
Nice.
So um,
So what was the weather like there?
it was amazing the first couple of days. Really picturesque, a light breezy fall weather, 50s to 60s. It got a little bit colder at night, so you'd have to put on your jacket. But then you just, switch out of that when the daylight came. Um, and then, towards the end of the race, for all of us back at the Packers, that's when the storm came. So I think that was around Monday night or something. It came in and hit us pretty hard.
Where were you when it hit? Were you
Let's
were you out on the trail?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think I was like at mile like 180 or so. Between mile 180 and 195 or so when the storm came. And I was just out on the trail. It was a nighttime and it just started to rain and it didn't stop. It was just hours and hours of rain. Sometimes really, really hard rain, sometimes a light rain, but it didn't stop and it was cold. And then apparently it was, also snowing up at the higher elevations too. Um, so that led into the whole course reroute thing at the end of the race. And,
We'll talk about that. What the reroute looked.
yeah, so initially the race you start at Mammoth Mountain, you ascend Mammoth Mountain, come down, and then you start going around the caldera. At the end, you're supposed to also go back up to the summit of Mammoth Mountain, which is the highest point, it's like 11,000 feet, 11,500 or something. And then you descend back into the finish line. Well, it stormed there the last night, and apparently it became super dangerous up there with snow accumulation, really high wind gusts, and so they stopped. They actually held runners and they stopped runners.
Okay.
I was held twice at aid stations for storms, and which is fine. I just sort of took a nap and ate and stuff, but and so the reroute, you couldn't go to the top of Mammoth Mountain at the end. You had to sort of go along the base of it, but they apparently Tim was out there running along, putting flags in as before we were going over it. And so he went out and marked a whole new section of course for us to finish up on. So we were going through snow at the end, and it wasn't terrible, but I'm glad that they had our safety in mind for sure.
Yeah, right on. Um, what did you use for waterproof gear?
I just use dry bags.
And
Like for drop bags, I would use the dry bags. They're not very expensive. You can
yeah,
get them on Amazon for like 20 bucks. And I have for my rain, I have a Patagonia rain jacket. Um, so I did invest into some good rain gear. So the Patagonia rain jacket, Patagonia rain pants.
okay.
So I did wear both of those that night when it was raining terribly. And it
How
kept me
about your
pretty
hands?
dry.
How
My
about your hands?
hands, I just have some regular North Face gloves. And
Waterproof or no?
no, they're not
No.
waterproof, but
No.
I would just keep them inside my jacket.
Jacket. Were you using poles?
Um, I did have poles, yeah, and I would just grab onto them with the
Jacket.
sleeves.
I got you.
So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that section, I was, going from Obsidian Dome to Inyo Crater. That was when it was nighttime raining. I was super tired, and so that's it. That's the other
Hmm.
thing. I was tired. I was falling asleep every couple of steps, and it was raining and cold. And I took at least three dirt naps out there
Okay.
when it was raining. So I was like, listen, if I don't sit down and take a nap, I'm gonna fall over and hurt myself. So I'm just gonna do it.
And so what did that
Um,
look like? How did you I mean, it's raining obviously. Did you create any type of like little impromptu shelter or anything like that?
no, no, I
No.
just laid down. I
Okay.
laid my head down on the pack, and my face was getting a little bit of raindrops on it, and I was at a point where I didn't care.
Uh, so one thing that I had for tour that I didn't have to use, but it may be something that people are doing 200s because of the situations you just described, is just an emergency poncho.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're so easy to pack and you can create a little like impromptu shelter under that and be dry while you're sleeping. So
Yeah,
um but yeah, so you just, we're okay with just getting wet, obviously. Um,
yeah.
there's a few questions from that. Did they have a mandatory kit? Anything that you had to carry? What was their safety equipment?
They had a pretty big mandatory kit.
Okay.
And I remember you had to have rain pants. Um, you had to have a seam sealed rain jacket. it was up to you whether you had a like a puffy jacket or not. Um, but I had one already. You had to have a bivy, all this kind of stuff. So I mean, it was a pretty big kit,
Yeah.
and um, so that's I had to take a bigger pack actually for this race because I was going
I was gonna
solo,
ask. Yeah. What pack
and
did you use?
it was the Epic
Oh, okay. The Epic XL, the
XT, yeah,
XT.
Epic
Yeah.
something from Ultraspire.
Yeah.
So it was like
Okay.
a 30-liter pack,
Wow. Yeah.
and which worked great. It's just a little bit more bulky and
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't really move super fast, but it has everything you need.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Very cool. And then so far as shoes go, what kind of shoes did you bring out there? What were you using?
I wear Speedlands,
Okay.
um, and I love those because they have the BOA system.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember
And
which model you used?
the GS so then the latest one.
Okay.
I use that one for about 170 miles, and then I use the GS Cocodona version
Mm-hmm.
one for the last
Okay.
section.
How'd they
Um,
do with traction with all the wet?
Fine,
Yeah.
totally fine.
Good.
It wasn't super terrible.
Okay.
Like I don't think that the trails out there aren't extremely technical like they are on the East Coast, you know.
Okay.
So the traction on those shoes worked fine.
Good. Good. Right on. You mentioned, you were kind of falling asleep. Aside from like taking your dirt nap, did you have any other tricks to, trying to stave off the sleepies? Did you try anything else?
Yeah, I mean, every so often I would just stop and sit down like on either a rock or a tree stump,
Right.
and I would just, take a micro nap. I didn't, I would just sort of lay my head, like slump my head down, and then I would fall asleep for like maybe a minute or two, and then I would get up and go. So that was enough to keep me going.
Right on. Did you have any sort of caffeine with you?
I didn't, but I had Coke at the aid stations. That was another thing I put in each of my drop bags was a little Coke bottle. So I would drink that.
Right
Yeah.
on. Okay. Did you have a sleep plan going into this one?
They had 5 sleep stations.
Right, you said that.
So I knew that I probably was going to sleep at every single one.
And did you?
And that was my plan. Yeah, I slept at every single one, either ranging from an hour to about an hour and a half each time.
Okay.
So
How did they
okay.
situate the sleep stations? Was it a quiet area?
Not necessarily. I
No.
mean, there were some of them. There were some of them that were right in the aid stations. But I was so tired. I have like a superpower. I can fall right asleep, and it's not a big deal.
Yep.
But I imagine for people that are light sleepers, it was a problem. But for me, I just fell right asleep, and it wasn't a problem.
Right on. My tour drop bag, I got like a sleep mask with Bluetooth headphones
Yeah,
for tour because it's notorious for the sleep stations being pretty noisy because everybody's like coughing or like making noise. So
yeah, for
um
sure.
yeah, I mean the one that I did get to do, the one life base, I pulled my rumple up over my head and and just fell asleep. Because like you said, you're just so tired. But and did they have cots? Did they have rollout mats? What did they do for you?
Yeah, they had cots and blankets. So you would just sort of lay down on those, cover yourself with a blanket, and go to sleep. It was
Right.
fine.
Good. Right. Okay, cool. Um, what was your favorite part of the course?
Oh, man, there was so much. Now, I didn't get to see half the course because it was in the dark. So
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get to see a lot of the really pretty sections like Convict Lake. That's a really pretty section I didn't get to see. Um, but let's see, my favorite sections of the course. I mean, I think it's just a combination of running through the mountains, and then in the middle of the mountains, they have the calderas, like running through the like desert sage. Like I love the deserts. And then that was probably one of my favorite sections is going through all that desert sage on this like double track trail, smelling it in, is beautiful. There's so many sections where you're going through up in the high alpine, like you're running through aspen trees.
Hmm.
And part of that is back in the Glass Mountains. There's a really, really tough section. And I think, people are probably going to know about this in the future. It's after Spring Church, going to Sawmill Meadows. That's the section. It's really hard at the beginning. There's so many like little, there's like so many climbs. You'll go over a climb. You won't see the other climb until you get to the top of that climb. And there's like so many climbs, and this is going back into the Glass Mountains. But once you get past that really hard section, you get back into the Glass Mountains, and it's fall there. I think they planned this out. It's fall, so everything's changing. But the aspen trees back there are so beautiful. With the yellow leaves and the
Yeah,
and the white trees, it's so great.
yeah,
I love
that's
that.
cool. That's beautiful. Cool. Um, all right, I've got a loaded. This has a back end to it. So, Mike went out to Rainier and hiked and did about 100 miles around Rainier, correct?
Yes, the Wonderland Trail.
Yes. So, talk about that experience and where it was in training, what you got out of it, and how what it did for you moving into Mammoth.
Um, yeah, man, that's probably the highlight of my year is the Wonderland Trail. And for anybody that knows anything about hiking, it is a bucket list hike. It is pretty hard to get a permit to do this hike. So you got to try almost a year in advance to get your permit, and then once you get your permit, you're not guaranteed to go on there. I mean, or at least you apply for a lottery. Once you get into the lottery, you're not guaranteed to get the permit, so you have to go into like this window of like reserving all different campsites along around the Wonderland Trail. So luckily, we were able to get into the lottery. We were able to get a full set of permits, and permits is basically your campsites. You get campsites around Mount Rainier, and so it was me and my wife, and we did it early September. So I knew this was like the number one thing. This was the most important thing, and I knew it was right smack in the middle of training. But it's this was number one goal for me, priority wise, and it's just unreal. It's hard. It's extremely hard. So it's basically 100 miler, and you're going about 30,000 feet of elevation gaining that 100 miles. And it's no real flat parts in the trail. It's either you're going up or you're going down, and it's for miles and miles and miles each way. So, and my wife, she's just super trooper. She did awesome. And it was just a magical experience. Like,
How
you
many days
know,
did it take you guys?
let's see, we did it 8 days, 7 nights, I believe, or maybe, yeah, I think that was correct. So we're going, that's probably an aggressive schedule. Most people do it a little bit longer than that. And, but that's the time we had allotted. So, and I highly recommend it. If you can do any one long, like one sort of through hike in your life that's not like AT or the PCT, I recommend doing the Wonderland Trail. It's something that I think normal people can do.
Oh, yeah, right on. And how long did Mammoth take?
Mammoth was about 100 and I think 101 hours.
So almost like what's that? 25, four, that's
Yeah, it
four
was
days, right?
started on Friday, ended on Tuesday morning.
Yeah. So about 4 days, something
Yeah.
somewhere around there, 4 days plus. Um, okay. So here's my question, and this is something that I just want to hear your opinion on this. Okay. So you said that during Mammoth you missed a lot of the course, a lot of the beauty because it was at night, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You got to do the Wonderland Trail, but you got to experience all the beauty because you hiked during the day, right?
yeah.
So, what do we get out of doing 200 milers that we wouldn't get from just doing it as what you did for Wonderland Trail? What do you get out of it?
Um, wow, it's like you're throwing it's that extra push, right? So, well, I guess it's definitely you're covering more ground.
Hmm.
You're seeing a lot more ground, whether it's in the daytime or nighttime, than you would for a hike, or like a through hike like that. And it's a totally different thing. So I mean, hiking when you're not in a race and you don't have cutoffs, I think is more enjoyable. I think it is.
Yeah.
And I definitely would say that that's the more enjoyable activity for me. But I still like to push myself. And that's where the draw of doing the race is. So I still like to push myself. I still like to, do these things where there are some cutoffs, where there's someone chasing you.
Yeah.
You have a goal to get to. So
Yeah.
it's just two different things, but
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. There was no right answer. I just was curious. Like,
Yeah.
so Nathan, once I was pulled out of tour, he asked me, hey, like, why don't we just come back here and just hike this route?
Yeah, for sure.
Like just the two of us. And I said, well, why don't the two of us come back and just do Tour de France together?
Yeah,
Like and experience this together. And he's like, well, we see so much more. And that's what, led me to the question I just asked you.
exactly.
Because,
Yeah.
we had a further conversation as to is there, value in doing the race where, what's the positives and negatives of like hiking it versus doing the race, right? So we
Yeah.
just started talking about it. And that was, really just my impetus behind asking you that question. Because
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's an interesting thought. Like instead of like going over there and dishing out this money for the race, like going over there and just enjoying the experience. Two very different things. And as you said,
Yep.
like tour, you're really pushing yourself, right? And that's
Yep.
why I was doing it was to, push myself. So I totally understand where you're coming from and agree with you that there are two different purposes. The hiking can be more enjoyable because it's laid back, there's no cutoffs, all that good stuff, and you can do it at your own pace.
Yeah.
So I totally hear where you're coming from. Um, so Mammoth itself, you said you did fine with the altitude. The weather obviously presented some challenges, which
Yeah.
you obviously, no pun intended, weathered. Um,
Yep.
but what else popped up? How did your feet do? Because you said, you had, you typically get feet problems. You were able to address most of it with the aid stations and such.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was able to address like preventive, like preventing blisters and stuff. But I mean, no matter what, you're gonna get foot pain on these things, and it is so bad. I think that's the worst thing is the foot pain. Um, and foot pain, toe pain, it just gets really bad.
Yeah,
So
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha. Yeah. Anything else that you took away from Mammoth was there anything that you were like, man, like I hadn't experienced this before and had to work my way through it, and this is how I did it. Did you experience anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean the whole thing. I mean, going by myself to do this monster activity was something I was scared to do.
Of course.
And I did not really think that I was going to be able to do it um, by myself, but I was just able to
Ooh.
persevere and get through it. I mean, so that was a very big surprise and a happy surprise for me that I was able to do this thing. So
Well, all
um,
right, so talking about that for a second, because you had doubts going into this, right? And
yeah.
like, so before the start, you're already thinking to yourself, man, I don't think I can do this. Like, like, how did you, I guess, how did you stay present enough to not let that thought evolve and take you out of this race?
I just go aid station to aid station. That's all I can do. And I think it's a little bit easier on these huge races like the 200s because the number is so big that you have to do. It's hard for me to think about it. So I mean, when you're completing your first 50K, you're like, okay, well, I have to do multiple 50Ks during this race.
Hmm.
But I can't, for some reason, I can't really think about that too much. It's just too much for me to comprehend that I just like, well, I'm just going to go to the next aid station. I will say that in a 200 for me, um, the first 100 mile is much harder than the last 100 mile because you just have to get over that hump is hard because you're like, well, you're at mile 50, you're hurting terribly. You're thinking, wow, I have over 150 miles to go. Whereas if you're over 100, you're like, I only have like 80 miles to go. So it's not as bad. So just keep going to aid station to aid station. Eventually, it just, you just start knocking those numbers down, and then you're getting closer and closer to the finish. It's crazy.
Right on. That's a great, yeah, mentality. I love that. Any phone calls home during this one?
Oh yeah, yeah. I broke down for sure. There's another. So there's two cruxes of the race. I mean, I already talked about one. It was Green Church to Sawmill Meadow, and then there's a section from Grant Lake to June Mountain, where you're going this really big elevation climb, and then the descent is absolutely terrible coming into the June Mountain aid station. Um, and I was just feeling terrible. I think everybody felt really, really bad coming into that aid station because I mean the volunteers were just looking at everybody. Oh my gosh, these people look terrible. Um, so after that, yeah, I did call home and broke down a little bit. And my wife just sort of talked me through it again and just like, you're doing awesome. You're doing this by yourself and, keep going. So, yeah, I did call home.
Um, it's a brand new race. So, like, was there any way you could get any idea what you were about to do?
Well, I mean, Sally McRae did this course or like a version of it a year prior to, and she put that film out on it. So I did watch that. and and then they had a Facebook group where people would share if they've done sections of the course. And then anybody that did a section of the course, you just go to their Strava and look it up and sort of check it out. But other than that, it's sort of a mystery to me, and I kind of like that. I did want it sort of be a mystery out there when I was going through. And what's the next section look like? So okay, we'll do this. And I did not to try to do too much pre-planning. I knew that there was going to be about 16,000 feet of elevation in the first 100, 16,000 feet of elevation in the last 100, and it was going to be a varied terrain. But other than that, I was kind of looking forward to getting surprises along the course.
Um, yeah, very cool. Um, Anything, from training that you would impart to the listeners that you're like, I really would say like this is a good thing to do in your training for 200 milers in general. Any type of 200 miler.
Yeah.
What's your biggest words of wisdom there?
Um, well, I mean, don't get discouraged, I guess, if you're not putting up these huge numbers, because I would like listen to folks on podcasts and stuff, and they were saying they were doing over 100-mile weeks and stuff, but you don't necessarily need to do that, to be successful at these things. Um, well, I think one of the things that really helped me, and it was the Wonderland Trail. It really helped me out a lot. I was carrying, this was me and my wife's first through hike. And so we are inexperienced in being light in our backpacks. So my backpack was close to 40 pounds for that whole time. And it was hard, but it actually was great training for me. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because basically in these 200s, you're hiking at a good pace with a somewhat heavy pack on. Um, and that was exactly what I was doing during the Wonderland Trail.
Mhm.
So, I mean, but my pack, thankfully, during the race was much lighter than it was on the Wonderland Trail. So,
True story. And Mike also does weighted vest walks twice a week.
oh
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and this was before we heard about the uphill athlete doing training for UTMB. So
yeah.
Mike's been doing that for a while, which certainly helps with the pack that you had to carry. Awesome, Mike. Any closing thoughts? Because I really appreciate your time, buddy, and I want to be conscious of that as well.
Oh yeah, I'm totally fine. I mean, I can't say enough good things about the race. And to me, it really just like Cocodona, I had that same type of feeling after Cocodona. I'm like, well, I would like to do this race again. Um, I mean, I think it's going to be a big race in the future, and probably will be one of those races that's hard to get into, unfortunately, in the future. I mean, good for them, bad for me.
Right.
But yeah, I would definitely do this race again. I think um, if you're 200 curious, it's a great introduction into the 200s because the time cutoffs are very, very generous. Um, and the terrain is beautiful. The support is great, and I just had a great time out there doing it. And next year, my wife said she would come and crew me, so it should be a little bit easier. So-
Nice. That's awesome. Mike, once again, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. If people want to connect and ask you questions, what's the best way to reach you?
Um, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I mean, I'm not very social, I'm not really good at social media, but I am on it. Definitely message me if you have questions. And I'm like, just my name, or I think my Instagram is Get Some Trail.
I'll find you.
Um,
I'll
yeah,
find
yeah,
you. And
she's
I'll
in
put it
there.
in the show notes. No
And so I
problem.
only have like a few posts I've done in my lifetime. So most of my Facebook posts are from my wife, and she tags me. So that's how much I do on my Facebook.
And you're on
But
Strava too, right?
I am on Strava. Yeah,
Because you can see some of this fun stuff on Strava.
yeah.
Awesome, Mike.
Actually, my watch like totally broke down this race, and I don't know. So the recording for this race is bogus, but that was a bummer. But
Which watch were you using?
I had the Coros Vertex, and apparently, I guess I didn't calibrate it correctly because I
Mm,
put it in the Ultramax mode. And
yeah.
man, that was a bummer because in the beginning of the race, thought I was going at a good pace, but it was like you are going at 24 minutes per mile. I was like, man, I don't think I'm going this slow. And it was just like, yeah, it was not recording
Gotcha. Oh,
accurately. So
it's a
big
bummer.
bummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
My Vertex 2 did it last summer.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but well, Mike, once again, thank you, my friend. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for being
yeah,
with
dude.
us.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. And hey, you coached me through this thing, and you got me prepared. So I mean, if you guys are looking for a coach that is good at 200 milers, look no further. I mean, here you go. You know what I mean? He knows what he's doing. He knows
Oh,
what he's
thanks,
doing.
Mike. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Well, thank you, Mike, once again, and congratulations, obviously, on such a wonderful year. I'm so proud of him and so happy for him, for his achievements and all he did. It's very cool, very cool. So thank you, Mike, very much. To catch you guys up, this past week, kind of was a whirlwind. I didn't anticipate, but ended up driving with my son across the country. That had been kind of a bucket list item for me to drive across the country. It wasn't the way I had envisioned because we had to get him back to Portland within a certain time frame. So, but he needed his vehicle for multiple reasons. So we drove his Jeep across the country, and we started out by going up to Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, where the University of Wisconsin is. They had the Nutty Comb Invite, and my son Keegan's team, the University of Portland, were racing there. So we got to watch his men's team race. The women were not there. Also got to see the NC State women just absolutely crush it in their race, which was phenomenal. So very cool, very amazing course, solely designated to cross country, which you don't oftentimes see. A whole area just designated for cross country. It was pretty spectacular. I really enjoyed my time with Keegan. And our time together, we went for a number of runs. So, just a great father-son experience, one that I'll never forget and just appreciate my time. We got to Portland in 4 days, which was pretty insane, driving, across from North Carolina up to Portland, Oregon in 4 days. And then the fifth day I flew back, which just seemed like a whirlwind. And I was extremely exhausted, but such a worthwhile trip. So really enjoyed that. Upon getting back, I spoke with my strength coach, Will France, and we're jumping back into strength. My ribs are doing well. Will's only stipulation was that if anything hurt, that I did not do that, and I reported it. And that's what kind of got me thinking about the topic that I want to talk about, because I did or I attempted to do one of the exercises, and I felt like my rib was going to snap. So I stopped immediately. Thankfully, a little sore today, but nothing like it was. I don't think I did any damage. I think the muscles are just sore from, kind of lack of use. But yeah, I started strength training again yesterday. Today is Wednesday, October 22nd. So yesterday was the 21st. So I started my strength training routine again, and reported, right away to Will. And, a lot of times we think about these things when we're running, right? Like, oh, such and such bothered me. But a lot of times we don't think about that with strength training, or at least, I don't typically. A lot of my athletes don't really report much in the way of, perhaps a strength discrepancy or a lack of mobility. Because what I'll say is that, I was doing a few different exercises, and I was trying to be really cognizant. More because of my shoulder, obviously, but I really wanted to be cognizant of where I was at, because this was my first time back training, in some months. I basically eliminated strength training. One of my faults, one of my things that I oftentimes do, strength training is typically one of the first things to go when I feel restricted on time, which it shouldn't. And I know that, and I've talked about that in the past, but it is a mistake that I repeat. And so that's why I'm back to working with Coach Will. I need the accountability. I want to make sure I'm doing what my body needs. And this conversation can go so many different ways. And I have, it's spurred, another topic that I want to get into another time. So I'm not going to take that road right now, but just being able to be cognizant of your body and its movement patterns, especially when strength training. And, strength training it's extremely important for a number of reasons, especially as we age. So, I am not a strength coach. I am working on a strength and conditioning certification, but it's really just to kind of round my knowledge. I want to make sure that, I understand what's going on. I do program strength for my runners, but it's very basic. I'm reading training for the uphill athlete, as we've talked about. And, a lot of, talk is around the, muscular fatigue. And that's a whole nother, and that's, kind of where I want to go in the future, is talk about that and that topic. As I learn more from reading this and watching videos and listening to podcasts, it's a new piece. Now, I'm not going to be the one that's going to give you the information. I'd prefer to defer to people that know what they're talking about on that subject. So I'm going to try to find some guests where we can kind of go down that rabbit hole and talk specifically about that and how we train that. As I learn, I'm going to try to incorporate it with runners where it makes sense. And there's another topic that I want to talk about as well, but not for this podcast. So let me get back to the topic at hand. I'm sorry for straying. Okay. So, in my strength training, we had a number of different movements, some plyometrics, some weight / strength based. So, what I noticed was that when I was doing single leg deadlifts, and he had it, so that I had support if needed. And, I noticed that my left ankle, which is my bad ankle, that's the one that I always sprain. I was digging my big toe into the ground so much more because of the instability and lack of strength in that ankle. So something I noted to Coach Will, left ankle is apparently super weak right now. It's good, good to note, right? Like, I want to make sure that doesn't become an issue, because the weaker it is, the more susceptible I am to rolling it. So, programming, and this is what Will is great about doing, is like, if you notice some kind of discrepancy, be it with strength or mobility, he tries to address that. And so, I need to get working on that left ankle. Certainly, the single leg deadlifts were working that ankle. Like, I could totally feel how much my ankle was working, which is great. I could also feel it on the single leg calf raises. We did weighted single leg calf raises. I could feel the difference between my left and my right. So, focusing on the singularity, the unilateral motion, right? Just doing one leg at a time, really kind of gives you kind of an objective review of how you're doing. How are you feeling? How is your strength? How is your mobility? So, that was one instance where I was like, wow, left ankle is an issue right now. I need to address that. Secondly, we were doing front squats, and I could feel, I like maybe I went too deep on the first set, and I could feel my right hamstring kind of tugging a little bit, not quite like pulling, but noticed that it was definitely it was there, something to note. So I noted that as well. And then other notes, obviously I was doing what hurt my rib was we were doing incline reverse crunches. So I basically would have to hold on to the headrest, and then I would pull my whole hips and lower body up towards my shoulders. So my knees were going towards my shoulders. Knees were bent at like 90 degrees, and they were kind of coming back towards my shoulders. And so once I started to pull up and kind of crunch, if you will, or put the pressure more towards my shoulders, that's what really hurt the one rib. And that's when I stopped. I didn't even attempt to do another one. I was like, nope, the rib's totally not ready for that. So noted that as well. The last was actually kind of a mobility exercise, and it's the couch stretch. For those of you familiar with it, it is a wonderful stretch, especially for those of us that sit in our desks all day long. So if that is you and you have tight hip flexors, I would say, check out the couch stretch. But when I did the couch stretch, I noticed the difference in the mobility between my right quadricep and my left quadricep. So, a lot going on with my left leg between my ankle and the quadricep. The quadricep was so much tighter. I noticed that I couldn't stretch as deep or as easily with the left leg. Right leg was like super simple. I could stretch, heel go right to my buttocks, whereas my left, it was really difficult to get my heel anywhere near my butt. And so noted that as well. So, these are things that I need to work on. Otherwise, they potentially could lead to potential for injury. So, working in that way, you can focus on weaknesses, focus on lack of mobility, and then help those areas to alleviate or kind of stave away from the potential for injury. So that's a huge thing. So, if you're working with a strength coach, if you're working with a coach, and, strength is being programmed, these are things that you should also note. A lot of times we just kind of check the box, yep, did my strength. Whereas we should go a little bit deeper into that, just as we do with our runs, and put in those type of notes, because those can be extremely helpful on things that A, you need to work on, and B, if something starts popping up, it starts cropping up, you can say, hey, look at these notes. I think it's because of, A or B. Or if you're seeing a physical therapist, you can share those things with the physical therapist. That's, again, another tremendous resource and advantage for the physical therapist, that you're noting these things and communicating them, because that communication could then lead to a different type of pathway for you in the physical therapy. They can recommend exercises to help. So, a lot there. It takes a village, just as we've often described, between, strength coach, physical therapist, run coach, there's a team that keeps us going, right, and keeps us healthy. So, that's something I really want to get better at myself. And, I encourage you all to do as well. Something I'm also going to communicate with my athletes, because, some of them do a great job of talking about how their strength session went, what was sore, what wasn't sore. A lot of them actually have Coach Will as their strength coach. I think that's a fantastic compliment. to have, if they have the ability financially to, to have a run coach and a specific strength coach, that's awesome. I think that's what we're finding more and more, is that these, specific coaches are going to do a much better job, because they're not focused on so many different pieces. They're focused on a specific part of your training, right? So, wonderful to have that collab with Coach Will, because he's also great at communicating with me as I am with him. So, a great way to have a working relationship. I even know that neither of us benefits from each other financially. Will does his own thing and I do my own thing, but we are really well at working together. So, that said, I, like last week with all the traveling, I just went on some few basic runs with my son Keegan, but this week I'm kind of back to it and kind of trying to grow my run volume. I'm really being, I guess you would say, focused, intentional, would be a better word, on my effort, and kind of rebuilding, from the ground up. Right. So trying to go easy, because, running with Keegan, I was just trying to keep up with him. Heart rate be damned. Honestly, that's the way it was. I was just trying to run with my son. Whereas now that I'm back to kind of home and running on my own for the most part, I've just literally been running back and forth on my road. Now, I'm very fortunate. My road is dirt. I got a little over a half mile one way. So, technically I get about, I think it's like 1.25 miles out and back on dirt for each lap. So I've just been doing that. It's pretty flat. I can control the heart rate. I put my heart rate monitor back on just to make sure that I'm getting accurate readings. And I'm patient. Just allowing the volume. Now the volume is growing by lap, and so that does add time. But what I'm doing is like each week, my normal run, I'm adding one more lap to the normal run, which is roughly equated to about 10 minutes time. So it works out pretty well. This week I've thrown in a medium long run. So far today I did my medium long run. So whereas like my average run is 5 laps right now, which is it's just under 6.5 miles. My medium long run was about 9. So, roughly takes me about hour to an hour 5 to do my average run, and about, hour 30 to an hour 35 to do the medium long run. So just being deliberate, right? Just being very deliberate about the effort, about the time spent in my zone 2, that's recovery zone. It's very difficult, and this will be another conversation. It's very difficult to understand what people mean, because when we talk in zones, everybody's zones seem different these days, so far as what we're talking about. So when I say zone 2, I mean the very low aerobic effort, okay? Almost like a recovery run. So I'm really just going super easy, super gentle on my body. It feels like I could go forever. Like when I'm done, I'm like, I could have kept going. That's a nice feeling to know you've gone, like today, hour and a half, hour half plus. And like, I could have kept going. I could have kept going a few more laps. What I'm building to is something that I've wanted to accomplish for a number of years. And whether it happens or not, we'll see. But what I'd like to do is in December, since there's 31 days, I would like to do, add 1 mile per day. So, the December 1st would be 1 mile, December 2nd, 2 miles, December 3rd, 3 miles, and so on and so forth. That equates to 496 miles for the month. Now, will I do just a mile on December 1st? No, I will add on some more volume to that. But it's something that I've wanted to do for time. It's, a goal in the meantime where I have nothing really on the calendar, but I also just want to keep it relatively easy. Now, in the interest of time, as the miles get higher, I probably get in some zone 3 running. But, I just want to, little micro goal for myself for December. So yeah, it's going to get tough. When I listened, I'm sorry, I can't remember where I heard this, but when we get into like December 16th and beyond, it's going to get real. I mean, December 16th, 16 miles, December 17th, 17 miles, December 18th, 18 miles, and so on and so forth. So by December 31st, December 30th, I'm going to have a 30-mile run. December 31st, it's going to be a 31-mile run. That's going to be a challenge, and I kind of look forward to that challenge. I was kicking it around on my run yesterday. Like, what do I want to do? Where do I want to do it? I contemplated just staying on my road and just doing it on my road. And then I started thinking about doing it on Yellow Gap Road, for those of you that are familiar with that one. It roughly from my house to Pink Beds is about 25K. So it works out almost perfectly. So, there's some good climbs in there. Nothing extremely challenging. They're just a little bit long, about a 3-mile climb, but so, I mean, kicking around the idea, but, I also want to talk to my wife, make sure it makes sense. We'll be starting indoor track, kind of mid-November. I don't think we'll be competing. And the nice thing about those long runs is it comes right in the holidays. And I don't think we're going anywhere for the holidays. So, my son will be home, potentially he could ride his bike with me. So I have some company. There's a lot to it, lot of thought process behind it. So working on that. That might be a project for December. So just trying to build up my volume right now. So the potential for me to be able to do that in December, will be legitimately, conceivable, I guess. So, that's what I am up to. This weekend we have our state qualifier meet for the 5A, region. We are 5A West, so the kids will be racing this weekend. Ambrin is racing. We're going against the number 1 team in the state, in North Lincoln for the girls. The boys are ranked 5th in our region, and the top 6 teams make it to states. So we're kind of on the borderline. We need the boys to have their day. The race is at the Tryon Equestrian Center, which is really cool. They've made a cross-country course on an old Arnold Palmer golf course. So that's where we're off to this weekend. Excited for that. The following weekend will be the state meet, and we are headed to Kernersville for the state meet. And then we've got a few little last chance meets, postseason meets, if you will, that we're going to do. But yeah, cross country amazingly is winding down, which is incredible. So super cool. I have had a few people reach out about coaching. I know 2026 is rapidly approaching. So if you're thinking of hiring a coach, I throw my name out there. If you want to have a conversation and see if we're a good fit, please let me know. You can find out more information about me on my website, runningislife.run, and see my coaching philosophy and style, and as well as reach out to me, and then we'll set up a phone call so we can talk more. So, if you're thinking of it, please let me know. I just reached out to Hellbender. I'm going to be a sponsor for the Hellbender. It's so hard because that is our track state qualifying weekend, which I can't miss, unfortunately. So, as much as I love to be a part of the Hellbender race, either as a runner or as a volunteer, it's just really challenging that weekend. So, I'm, trying to support it in whatever way I can. So, I reached out to them and, sent in my check for sponsorship. So going to be a part of Hellbender once again, which I'm very excited about. We just had a 10-year anniversary for the Run 828 Foundation, which we created 11 years ago now. We, due to Helene, we couldn't celebrate last year, which would have been a 10th year, but the Run 828 Foundation is still going strong. I really appreciate them inviting me to kind of speak about the beginnings of the foundation and where we came from. So, yeah, like I said, a lot has transpired within this last little bit, but all good things. So I hope everything is good by you. If you have questions or things you want to hear about on this podcast, as I said, I have like a bazillion different ideas running through my head for podcasts, as well as guests. I just had 2 gentlemen finish the Moab 240. One being Ben Gons, who he's been on the podcast previously. Ben did the Triple Crown of 200s this year, so we're gonna have Ben on. and talk to Ben all about the Triple Crown and his experiences, his training, all that he went through. And the other was Ellis Pace. He just finished Moab 240, and it was his longest race to date. Ellis comes from more of a strength training background, but really likes to kind of create these challenges for himself. And both of them crushed it. So I'm so proud of both of them. So yeah, I know we've had a lot of 200-mile conversations, but I think we can kind of gather a lot from the mental side of this, from these athletes, because it takes so much to get through. And that's always my intrigue, is the mental side and how we can better equip ourselves to take on any challenge. So we'll be talking to those guys. It's incredible watching, my athletes. It is rare that a weekend goes by that we don't have someone on our team racing. This past weekend we had some awesome performances as well. So, my congrats to Nicole Burnham for her finish at the Ghost Train. It doesn't sound like it was an easy go, but she made 100 miles in the 30-hour event. So very proud of Nicole and her efforts. So congratulations. Other than that, my friends, like I said, I hope everything is good by you. I appreciate all of your time, for listening, for being a part of this podcast, for all of your contributions and comments and questions and everything else. So please keep them coming. So until next time, my friends, keep moving forward. Running is life.